With 6 out of the 9 finalists for the recent Pirelli Bike of the Year competition being naked bikes, and don't forget they all had to be new for 2014 models, you'd be forgiven for thinking that maybe the naked bike in South Africa is a new phenomenon. But actually, that's a load of rubbish. What about Triumph's Speed Triple, which I've been running as a long-termer? Triumph's Street Triple. And how about this little beauty, Suzuki's GSR 750? As you can see from our brain bucket specs box, the engine is a 750cc 4-stroke 4-cylinder, producing 105 brake horsepower, and it weighs 213 kilograms. Not going to set the road alight, but then maybe not everybody wants that. The GSR 750 is a no-frills, get-on-and-ride type of motorcycle, and it's none the worse for that. No fancy electronic this or multi-adjustable that. What you get is an engine, wheels and a frame with a set of controls, and that's about it. Out on the road, it takes a while to get used to the free revving nature of the engine after lumping around on V-twins and triples, and indeed, at first the engine feels gutless and underpowered. But all that's needed is to rev the nuts off it, and it goes like stink. 100 brake horsepower, 80 newton meters, not the biggest figures in the world, but they do give you a 230 km/h top speed, and, like I said, as long as you wring its neck, decent acceleration. So, smooth engine, good chassis. This is a bike that doesn't shout about its abilities, it rather lets you discover them for yourself, and I kind of like that. So there you have it. It seems like losing the X and the fairing from the GSXR 750 hasn't turned it into some sort of limp-wristed little naked bike. It's actually a hell of a lot of fun. But the best thing about this bike is the price. What do you think it costs? Nah, too much. 95,000 rand, which undercuts all the other naked bikes on the market by a huge margin. So, being so much cheaper, does that mean it's not as good as the opposition? Well, I don't think so, actually. And to prove it, we're going to run it for a couple of months to find out its strengths and weaknesses in everyday life. And so, say hello to the latest of the bike show's long-term test fleet.
Harry's right. As always, as with any long-termer that arrives on the bike show, it's going to have a hard life. We use them every single day of the week, and they get travelled all over Gauteng, any type of weather, any type of conditions. But this particular Suzuki GSR is going to have an even tougher life than usual because, and you might not believe this, we're going to turn it into a race bike as well. Now, why would we do that? Well, as you know, Harry's been getting into his racing, doing all the training, and the best way for him to get even faster and even better is to take part in the 4-8-12 Endurance Series that started here in South Africa, based around Red Star Raceway. Now, what's good about this series, instead of the regional racing where you get 8 or 10 lap sprints, in endurance racing, you could be out there for an hour or so at a time, so you're getting a lot of track time, you can settle into a rhythm, and you're also probably going to get passed by some proper experienced guys. So as a learning curve, nothing can beat it. But a Suzuki GSR, really? How are we going to turn that into a race bike? It just so happens that I know a place and a man who knows what he's doing. Odin Power Sports, this is Chris, the guy who runs it. You know you're racing. I suppose first off, Chris, are we being a bit stupid? Can we really race this?
Never. No, it's the way ahead. Take a bike that you're using every day, sitting in the back of the garage, and yeah, get it up to a point where you can race. You're familiar with it. I mean, if you've got something like this in the garage, or it's not even in the garage, you could be using it every day. It's a commuter. I mean, no one knows this bike as well as you do, sort of thing. So it makes sense actually then to take that next step and use it on the track. You've already got a foot up. It's a bike. You know how it handles. You know its limitations. Really, what we're looking for is guys that have already done track days, that have got that are competent on riding on the track. You know, that are fast on the road.
So what would you say, a guy who's top of his Group B and into Group A sort of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
there's a lot of Group B guys out there.
There's a lot of the rookie guys out there. So it hasn't been a problem in previous races. Racecraft, the guys who are racing every weekend know how to get around someone safely. After you've been buzzed a couple of times, you're going to settle into to what it is.
Settling into your rhythm, and that's what I like about this. OK, the idea, Chris, is that we want to keep this as standard as possible. We want this to remain a road bike, but obviously we need to do some stuff to it to make a race bike. What are the basics? I know you've got to drill and lock wire some stuff to start with.
Yeah, you lock wire up your calipers, your oil filler cap, your oil filter.
What's this for? This is safety,
like
isn't it?
So it doesn't stop things coming undone, basically.
Okay, yeah.
And then we need to make sure that there could be no spillage onto the track. So we've got to take out the glycol, the coolant, and replace it with distilled water. We'll have to take any of the overflow pipes and put them into some kind of receptacle, 500 millilitre receptacle that's going to contain any spillages. Everything really is budget orientated, but there's some pretty fundamental things that you'd want to do to a bike to prep it. So first you'd go through your general maintenance items. So you're going to make sure that your engine is, the maintenance is up to date. At the minimum, you've got fresh oil in there, fresh filter, your air filter's clean. Go through the drive chain, make sure your chain, your sprockets are not overly worn.
Because I presume we are probably going to lower the gearing, so that means some different sprockets.
Exactly.
You might want to race chain, maybe.
Generally, before of you in a team, so you're all going to come together with a budget, and you can say, right, we need 3 sets of tyres for the 8 hour. We need 3 sets of brake pads. Let's get some nice race pads.
I see it's got rubber hoses. What about...
Well, let's change them. Let's put braided hoses on. Again, other things for your budget. Levers. It's really easy to drop the bike, break a lever at the end of your race. So a spare brake lever, a spare clutch lever, maybe a set of bars, maybe a set of the rear sets, the footrests. And then the rest of the stuff is literally taking stuff off. We've already started. We've got a mirror missing here. Indicators off, mirrors off. If you've got a pillion foot peg, which you can't see here, but take that off, Take the bits off that are excess, that you don't need. Drop a bit of weight.
It's not a massive amount of engineering, though, is it? It's common sense. Take off the bits you don't really need. We'll be keeping the seat unit. I mean, this is a bike that hopefully our dream is that once we've done the racing, within half an hour or so, indicators back on, we can be back on the road and it's back to a lifetime of drudgery around Gauteng. So,
exactly.
Chris, you're under pressure, mate. You've got a couple of weeks,
not even,
about 10 days to get this bike ready, but he said it should be easy.
No, that's good. We're prepping quite a few bikes for the 8-hour race, so we'll just slot this into our busy schedule and make sure it's ready for you guys to spin round, eh?
He's the man to know, Odin Power Sports. We're the team to know. I don't know if we're going to be winners, but we will be entertaining.
So there you have it, entertaining but not necessarily competitive, and I do believe that poor little street bike is going to be crying itself to sleep at night.
Like you probably will be as well at the end of it. Anyway, on that positive note, let's move on. After the break, we've got more to do with racing, and specifically this man.